But I thought I would talk to you tonight about, because everybody here is someone who makes art. Some of you would call yourself filmmakers, some of you actors, some of you may be designers, but I think all of us, it's hard to say, it's hard to call yourself an artist, isn't it? It's hard to say I'm an artist. It's just, it's weird, it sounds pretentious when you say it. Even if you say it really humbly and seriously, it sounds like you're just full of it, kind of. And so many of us have learned other things to say. Instead of saying you're an artist, you know, you say, oh, I work in film, or I do this. But that's what we are. We're artists. We wouldn't be doing this if we didn't see ourselves as creators and serious about what we're creating. And I think that people make art for all sorts of reasons. Some of them are very good reasons. I think there are good reasons to make art. I think there are bad reasons to make art. I won't dwell on the bad reasons, but I think some of the good reasons are sometimes it's good to make art for a hobby. Sometimes it's good to make art for therapy or simply to express yourself or an idea you have. I think those are valid reasons. Sometimes just the industry of people, I think, is an honorable thing. You just create, you just make things with your hands. I think that's good. But my goal as a filmmaker is to make art professionally, as my occupation, to make a living doing it. And I think, for those of you like me that are trying to do things artistically but also commercially, I think it's important that you know if your art is any good. I think that's a useful thing to know, if what you're doing is any good. So, I mean, because you will know almost instantly if your work is popular or profitable. It's very easy to, you say, well, how much money did you make? Okay, well, your art is profitable. Or how many people like you and follow you on Facebook? Okay, that's how popular you are. But how do you know if the work is any good? And I think that matters. It matters to me. I think it matters to you too, if the work you do is any good. Only the most cynical among us would sit there and say, oh, I don't care, I just work, I don't care if it's any good, it's all just, No, we want our work to be good. So, I've always thought, like, how do I know if this is any good? How am I to know? And so I thought I'd share a couple ideas tonight that might be useful to you as you evaluate your own work, be it an acting performance you're watching, a film you've made, anything that you've done creatively and artistically. How can you evaluate if it's any good? There is a famous German artist, scientist, mathematician. He's the guy that wrote a poem called Faust. His name is Johann Wolfgang, whatever that is, Goethe. Goethe. It's spelled like Goethe. So every time if you're going to Google this, it's like Go-E-T-H-E, Goethe. And Goethe was a literary critic, and he came up with this great, I think it's a very elegant and excellent way to evaluate a work of art, to decide if it's any good. And I recommend it to you tonight. Goethe's asked 3 questions about any art he encountered. The first question was, what is the artist trying to do? Very important question. What is this artist setting out to accomplish? What are they trying to do? The second question Goethe would ask is, were they successful at doing it? That's a fair question to ask, I think. And the third question, which a lot of us shy away from these days, but I don't think we should, is a very subjective question, maybe, depending on how you look at things. But the third question Goethe asked was it worth doing? He asked these 3 questions, and he evaluated all art this way. And I think this is a great way for us to evaluate our work. What was the artist trying to do? Were they successful in doing it? Was it worth doing? I've recently encountered a piece of art that I thought, what are they trying to do? I felt like I understood that. I felt like the artist was successful at doing what they were trying to do. And I thought, 3, no, this should never have been done. I see no reason for this existing. Okay. I've also seen a piece of art recently that was, I understand what they're trying to do. No, they failed miserably at doing it. And 3, oh my gosh, yes, this should be done. Isn't that interesting? So you can kind of weigh how these things go. Sometimes, if you can't get the first question answered, you're totally lost, right? I don't even know what they were trying to do. Like a horror film. Let's say somebody's making a horror film. The idea is that it would be scary, right? They're going to make a horror film. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to scare you. make you feel creepy or eerie or frightened. Were they successful? Well, I wasn't really that scared, but I noticed a lot of people there were scared, so maybe they were. Was it worth doing? Goes to what you think about horror films. What do you think about this particular horror film? What was it trying to do thematically? Was this worth it? So I love these questions. I love these as ways to evaluate your art. And so as I assess the quality of my own work, I seek feedback based on these things, based on these criteria. Now, here's where the problem comes, feedback. Feedback comes from human beings, okay? And that's where all this gets very complicated. Because here's some, I've written down a few, you probably have your own. Here's some undeniable truths about feedback you get from people who encounter your work. Sometimes people lie in feedback. A lot of times they lie. Sometimes they lie not to hurt your feelings, you know? So, but sometimes people just lie. Oh, it was so good. I had a friend, and his favorite critique of something he hated was he would say, "Oh my gosh, that was so much work." And think about it, like if somebody came up to you after they saw your film and like, "Oh my gosh, that was so much work," you'd be like, "I know, it was. It was really hard." So it was like a way of sort of affirming you, but also like, I don't want to tell you it was terrible. Okay, another one is sometimes people exaggerate. Hyperbole is often found in lobbies of theaters, you know, like after a play. You know, that people, oh my gosh, this is the best thing I've ever seen, and you know, so it was, you know, exaggeration is a problem. And sometimes people make up an opinion when they don't actually have one. You know people like this. You know, they kind of feel on the spot and they feel like they've got to say something, so they just say, that was genius. What you were doing was genius, and I especially like the end when you cried. You know, they just came up with this thing. And then sometimes people have had a really bad day, right? They hate it. They don't like it. They don't engage with it because they had a really bad day. I'm thinking that it's hard to watch a play at midnight. I think that was hard to do. I'm a morning person. And sometimes, and another thing is sometimes people just can't clearly communicate what they think. You know, they don't have the words. They literally don't have the words to express what they think. They might feel something very positive. They might feel something very negative, but they just don't know how to communicate in a language that you would understand. So here's the thing. Feedback is going to be flawed. The data is flawed. It's important to get it from humans because we're making our art for other humans, but the feedback you get is going to be flawed and strange sometimes. It needs to be qualified. You need to qualify the feedback you're getting. The way you do that is by qualifying who you ask for feedback. So my big thing tonight is I want to tell you some people you should ask for feedback on your work. And you'll find that what I don't say in this list of people you should ask for feedback on your work is I don't say colleagues, other actors, other artists, other filmmakers. Some people in this list will inevitably be other artists, other filmmakers, other actors. But I don't think it's wise to immediately go to other people like, oh, that guy's a filmmaker, I want to see my film and see what he thinks. Okay? Go to this list first. And where there's overlap, that's fine. And I'll explain why in a second. Here are some people you should ask. Specifically, 7 people you should ask. Complete morons. Complete idiots. Please ask a complete idiot what he or she thinks of your work. And you know what I'm talking about. I mean, like, I'm trying to be nice. You know, I like people, and there are some people that don't know as much about movies maybe as I do. But I would ask a completely uninformed person, what do you think of it? Hear that feedback. 2, people whose opinions you trust. Okay, that's a good one to ask. If you know someone who has great opinions about, let's say it's a film or acting, screen acting, ask them. That's good. That's a good place. That's the second person. The third person is smart-seeming strangers. There are a lot of you in here tonight that are, to me, smart-seeming strangers. Like, I don't know you, we're strangers, but you seem like you're smart. You know, because you're here. The guy that works at the Apple store seems very smart. He works at the Apple store. No, but, you know, I mean, I don't really know this person, but it seems like, you know, we were both at the screening of The Master at 3 p.m., and they're probably smart, you know? 4, friends and fans. Yes, you are allowed to ask your friends and people, fans, you know, that I do in quotation marks, people that are just like fans of your work. You can ask them what they think. What, you know, of course. Number 5, close friends and confidants. These are people that go beyond friends and fans. They're like your close friends. They're the people that you know, grill out with on the weekend or you go on vacation with. You can ask them what they think of your work. That's good. 6, your spouse or significant other. That's sometimes the hardest one to ask. And I'll say some stuff about Get Better. We kept asking ourselves what we thought of the movie, and it wasn't always pretty. And then finally, and this is the most important, is yourself. Now, I don't want to get too mystical and strange with this thing about asking yourself what you think about your work, but that's really where I'm going with all this. Is you as an artist and as a filmmaker have to at least develop the ability to be able to look at your own work and know. To have the opinion about it. To not be unduly critical of your work, unfairly critical of your work. I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. Or be that incredibly enthusiastic person who can't really see that the work is not where it needs to be. Let me tell you what to do when you get the feedback from people really quick. Ask yourself, are there things you hear consistently from different people? Okay? From lots of, pay attention to those things. Something's not working and you need to fix it. If you keep hearing the same thing, even if it sounds clumsy when they say it, but you hear it from a lot of people, there's something going on. As an actor, like my training is as an actor, and I hate it when people talk about actors like make really good faces. Like, oh my gosh, her faces are so great in that. I'm like, moron. You know? Yes, she had good expressions. Yes, what does that even mean to an actor? I mean, that's just total nonsense. But if you hear like several people say, I really liked her expressions, they're trying to tell you something about that actor and about how that actor came across on camera and how they, if they say, she made a funny face, like you get that from a lot of people. It's like that actually means something. It's a weird criticism to get, and it's hard to wrap your head around that, but it means something, and it's a clue. Also, do you hear in the feedback you receive from these people, do you hear strange one-off surprises? Because those too can be useful. Like offbeat people often have very imaginative critiques of work that can be very useful to you as an artist, because their suggestions often, responding to those suggestions often give your work texture and depth, you know. So it's good to have some weird friends. We have weird friends and we ask them what they think about our work, and a lot of times like the weird off-the-wall stuff is like really helpful, really useful. Let me bring this back and wrap this up. Feedback is dialogue for the artist's inner monologue. Because what you're doing as you're making decisions in your work is you are collecting collecting choices. It's a collection of choices. If you're an actor, just a collection of choices. If you're a director, collection. If you're a writer, collection of choices. Feedback is just you got these voices going on in your head. Some of them need to be flushed out and released and get rid of them, but some of them are very helpful. So this feedback you get is good for that inner monologue. Because, I really think as an artist, I think we talk to ourselves about our work. When you're sitting in front of the computer and you're editing and you're watching like a fine cut of a film that you've directed, you're watching, you're having a conversation with yourself about it. And it goes to, deciding when the work is done. That's the conversation you're having. Is the work done? It goes to this internal conversation with yourself. But let me give you one other thing, and maybe this will be, I think things I've talked about may be helpful practically, but let me give you something that's more like inspirational, aspirational to think about. And then we'll look at the movie. After you receive feedback from these people, from idiots, fools, and lovely, loving, awesome people, I ask you this: are you full or are you empty? I think if you're full after you receive feedback, even if it's negative in some way, I think you'll keep working. You'll grow. You'll learn. If you're full after you receive feedback, even when you discover that you're not very good at the art you are currently making or trying to make, the thought of getting better at it and like having a clue as to how to get better at it will thrill you. You'll be excited by this. You'll take that negative critique and you'll just be like, yeah. Not like masochistically like beating yourself up about it, but just, take it and learn from it and grow from it. If, however, after you receive feedback, you find yourself empty or sad or angry, just kind of lost, I'm going to say that you should make art for a different reason other than professionally or commercially to make your living at it. Because what's going to happen is because you feel that way, your pursuit of art is going to suffocate your soul. Because this is like the whole thing. That inner dialogue, that feedback, that conversation is the thing that you're going to live off of as an artist in many ways. And if it just makes you want to punch the wall, you got to stop. Because you're gonna waste your life, and you're going to subject the rest of us to a lot of really bad art. And we don't have time for that. So practically, my advice to you is to, I don't even know if it's advice, this is what we do. Subject yourself to feedback, and aspirationally, I'd say, really think about how you feel when you get feedback. A good tool I use, maybe I've done this to you if you show me your film or something, I will ask people, how much truth do you want? Somebody shows me their work. I want you to take a look at this and tell me what you think. I'll often say, well, how much truth do you want? Like, I can do 50% truth. I can do 70%. I can do 96% truth. I can hold back 4. And most people, and you're probably like, I want 100% truth. Okay. Especially if they're under the age of 20, I'll say, if you really want 100% truth, I don't think you do. I think you want about 40. But ask for the 100%. Ask for 100%. And when you're giving truth, don't forget to give, or giving feedback, don't forget to give the last 10% of truth, because it's often the last 10% of truth that actually makes all the difference. So that's what I have to say tonight as far as talking.